Well, good afternoon. It's Sunday after the Talking Head shows, and watching them is enough to sober anyone up. The usual, the kind of lies and shading and stuff like that, and I guess the hosts don't call them on it when they should. And I'll give you a few examples. We have, the Democratic Party sinning Sinema, for example, who's declared she's an independent, and she's already issued taped statements that suggest this is her tack to run in 2024 when her 6-year term is up. And one reason that she may be in this position is because she understands the Dems want to run someone against her in a primary. So she's going to run and hide and avoid that primary by becoming an independent so she can run in the general election. But that's not a great way to divide up the math in the general election. So I think that this is step one of a two-step, and the second step will be, well, she'll become a Republican and try to get their nomination. So then she is her against whomever the Democrat is. And I hope that we'll prevent her from going forward. There are a couple of candidates who might be strong to run against her. But the thing about the Democrats that upsets me is on the air today, they're trying to pretend this is just fine, nothing special, nothing out of the ordinary. All things will be continued just as they are now. Well, really? I don't think so. I mean, it's no accident that Sinema, who's been a sore point in the Democratic caucus, realizes that she waited until after Georgia to give her bad news. You got to wonder, if we hadn't won Georgia, would she have made this announcement? And she's not shown herself to be a giving person or a team player, and others who try to bridge the gap between partisan and independent do a better job at it, in my opinion. So the Democrats perhaps should follow my Irish instinct and say, fine, that's it, you're out. Goodbye, Ms. Sinema. Next. And we don't do that. We talk about judgeships and other things, but having her attend your caucus is not a good idea when you can't trust her. And that's the precondition. Now, in the crazy world of Republican officials, we have a real doozy in Ducey, who's the governor of Arizona. And what he's done is he's taken these container cars on the tracks and used them to create a blockade to cross the border and put razor wire on it to discourage crossing over. Well, luckily he'll be replaced by a Democrat shortly, and the question then is, will the Democrat take these things away? That shouldn't be a question, but it always is these days. Trying to bridge the gap between the Republican maniacs and a more traditional Democratic base and the independents has people, in political contortions and distortions that do not serve the public will. And that's no accident. Now, do you remember, talking about borders, how Trump was going to build the greatest wall ever, Well, it wasn't quite the Wall of China, and the Wall of China took a lot of maintenance, and it took a lot of people staffing it to actually work for the reasons it was created before it became an historic structure that people walk on when they go to China, but or make movies at, I guess. So what about his wall? Well, several days ago, they said Trump's wall was falling down. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, and he fell off it. And all the king's men and all the king's people couldn't put him or the wall together. So the inferior metal shouldn't surprise us, because isn't that what he's done as a developer his whole life, given less to the people, pretending it has quality when it doesn't? And that's what he did with the wall. Although he's having taxpayers pay for it. So my view is knock the damn thing down and do whatever we were doing to police the wall, and open up our processes the way some of the reforms suggest, so that we can have manageable immigration policies. But the story is, they want to say Republicans want this free labor and Democrats want these votes somehow when those people make it through the system and vote for the Democrats. That's a bizarre policy strategy, but it is a political strategy that I think we've suffered. Now, I won't confess to being a senior, but I understand that if you're over 60, they're very concerned that people are more at risk to COVID for a variety of reasons, and that age group is suffering the most, and that in these assisted living facilities, only half the people are getting vaccinated. And also, if you look at the charts, how our vaccinations compare to other nations, we're the worst. We're the absolute worst. We have all the technology, we've been sending it to other countries, and we're not doing enough ourselves. And last in a lineup of bad stories is the oil spill in Kansas, 14,000 barrels of oil. Talk about fossil fools. They do these things, and I say we make it possible for them to do these things. We don't brag about it. We have an environmental president who is fine with a pipeline from Canada. And this pipeline, by the way, is from Canada, the one that resulted in this spill. And every day they had 622,000 barrels of oil. Can you imagine? And so when you have that much oil, can you avoid a spill? And are we concerned about it getting into the Mississippi? Yes, some are. And that's part of the problem here. We don't take the precautions. We're not safe. We're not intelligent. And so we put at risk the waters of Kansas and nearby bodies of water. And we serve the dollar, but not the environment. And part of the theory, when I've attended these discussions and heard what they had to say, including Manchin in West Virginia, is, well, yeah, the upper line is we support clean water, clean air. We're concerned about carbon emissions, but we are prepared to modify it based on what it costs. And so that's where we are. America is prepared to have you and I sacrifice our bodies for daily business, don't worry about the COVID, and to risk all sorts of health ailments because we don't care so much about keeping the air and the water clean and avoiding the spills of fossil fuels. And we don't care about the working environment for people who work in those industries. So we subsidize with our health and the expenses we have and the suffering we have so that they, in the fossil fuel industry, can have a maximum profit. What a place, huh? But to many overseas and here, this is America. It comes from a speech I gave in grammar school, one of my first oratorical contests. Started with, some evening when you were in New York, walk up Broadway from Times Square. To a visitor, a stranger, it seems like quite a place. Flashing red neons blink their eyes. Well, there we are. There's no question that we give a great light show, and we give a great appearance. And we talk the lines, but our practices are not in the best interest of the people, of the nation, of the world. You can't lead except by example. You can say all these things, but you have to actually do it. You have to walk the walk. And we have, and this is Sunday, and I welcome you to my Cathedral of Trees. And someday we really got to get a bus and all do this together, even if it's with masks. Bye-bye.